Hi guys, I want to talk about the 53-man roster and the practice squad and where things stand from a personnel standpoint and injuries as the Texans head into game week next week, preparing to play the Los Angeles Rams, the season opener. Tough matchup against Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua, and of course Devontae Adams, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, and many other outstanding football players. So it's going to be a tough matchup. And we'll get more into game week, but the Texans are down to 53 players on the active roster. They have signed up their practice squad, as I've been reporting, over the past 24 hours. And yeah, I just want to say, didn't do a video yesterday. Kind of a lot of tough screen time with how much it just took to do all the reporting. Long day. Anyway, back at it, refreshed, recharged, and ready to bring it for this new video here. So as you guys saw, the Texans had some tough decisions, and it was, probably one of the most talented rosters that they've had in franchise history on both sides of the football. So that was, some difficult decisions. One of the ones that was kind of clear cut was CJ Gardner-Johnson. This is a positive situation because he's in a good spot, as Nick Caserio said, and that's why he went onto the 53, even though he's not 100%, but he's getting there, and he is making progress. Will he play against Los Angeles Rams? One of the biggest questions of next week. Unclear at this moment if he will. Kind of hard to think that, unless he's doing a ton more than we've seen, obviously practices are closed now, to think that whether he's going to be ready for the Rams game. Might need a ramp-up week. No pun intended. Ramp up for the Rams. Okay. We'll see if he can make it back for that game. But yeah, I think interesting that they were, comfortable in releasing Jalen Mills, Russ Yeast, and Miles Bryant, who is also back for the practice squad. Jalen Reed is on injured reserve, designated for return with a mild knee sprain. He is out of a brace and running again, but he is out for at least the first month of the season before he can return to practice. So, with CJ Gardner-Johnson, it's, he's eligible to play. We'll see if he does play. Okay, guys. Interesting development that on the strength of the last game of the preseason, Graham Mertz, the rookie quarterback, makes the 53-man roster, the initial one, and that he's a part of it behind starter CJ Stroud and backup Davis Mills. 14 for 16, touchdown pass against the Lions, ran the offense very well, was outstanding against their backups, and he did struggle against Minnesota Vikings with 3 interceptions. Acknowledged he was dealing with some nerves. First came back from the torn ACL last year, suffered while playing for the University of Florida. Interesting young developmental quarterback that they like a lot, and they didn't want to have him on the practice squad, as Nick Caserio said today. Some teams do it differently. Some people have 53. Some people with third quarterback's practice squad. They have some flexibility there. I don't think he's was clamoring for him to be their backup. So he's a third quarterback right now. That's where he stands, but an interesting young quarterback. So as you guys know, Joe Mixon's on the non-football injury list. We discussed that a lot in a separate video. Let's talk about the offensive line. They did shop Cam Robinson. They talked trade with NFC and AFC teams, and so they had some discussions. Ultimately, people passed. And the only trade that happened was Austin Deculus being traded to the Los Angeles Chargers for a 2027 7th-round pick. So the Texans did shop Cam Robinson. What does that mean? Well, obviously he has a $12 million base value of his deal. Most of it he's already made. He's got a very tradable deal with $2 million in the base salary, which is guaranteed. And there's a $500,000 per game incentive. There's another $1.25 million in per game actives total. There's a $2 million Pro Bowl and playtime incentive that's considered not likely to be earned incentive. So the contract is tradable, and the player, what can we read between the lines? If he was their starting left tackle, guys, which he's not, he would not be on the trading block. So what do we know? That they've got their starting 5. I've heard that per sources. They figured out the 5, and this is not a big revelation, but I'm going to say it now. Left tackle, Arion Terestri. Left guard, Laken Tomlinson. Center, Jake Andrews. Right guard is Ed Ingram, and right tackle is Titus Howard. So I think that's how they'll go forward. I think that's the lineup for the Rams game, and we'll see how they do. But a lot of enthusiasm about, Arion Terestri. Okay. Blake Fisher did make the 53, but he has a mild ankle sprain, and he is trying to return to practice soon. We'll see if he can get back out there. Although they cut former Pro Bowl tackle Trent Brown, he rejoined the practice squad, as I'd reported he would, and as I reported he did. And so that is that. British Brooks makes the 53-man roster again. Loved his answer to my question about how do you become successful on special teams? One-word answer: violence. He's right. Controlled violence out there, chaos, car crashes. He thrives in that world. Hard hitter. He's here for special teams. He can help on offense as a short yardage runner, but he can definitely play special teams. As you guys know, they cut Jakob Johnson, the starting fullback, but Jakob is back on the practice squad, so he can be elevated. Jake Hansen makes the team, and they keep 6 linebackers. So he made the team for special teams, so did Jamal Hill. And they cut Nick Neiman despite him having $4 million guaranteed, with all $3 million of this year guaranteed. He's already signed with the Green Bay Packers. So they weren't seeing what they wanted from him, and they move on. 10 defensive linemen. Will Anderson Jr., Daniil Hunter, Darrell Taylor, Derek Barnett, Dylan Horton, the 5 defensive ends. The 5 defensive tackles: Sheldon Rankins, Tim Settle Jr., Mario Edwards Jr., Foley Fatukasi, Tommy Togiai. Togiai, good young player. They've been talking him up a lot. He squats 700 pounds. He did 40 bench reps. They think he's got a bright future. I agree. Solomon Byrd is back for the practice squad. And then running back, they've got, obviously without Mixon, 4-time Pro Bowl runner Nick Chubb, Damian Pierce, who's back at it from a strained quadriceps, Dario Ogumawale, and Woody Marks. Jahar Jordan is back for the practice squad. Top backups for offensive line, by the way: Juice Scruggs, the center guard, top interior backup, center Jake Patterson, Robinson, and Fisher. And yes, they traded Harrison Bryant and then traded for him, then in the John Mechie trade. Then they released him, and then they cut Harrison Bryant, and then it was sort of procedural, but he's on the practice squad now. So he's back, and Luke Lachey, the rookie tight end from Iowa, is back. The Texans did explore a trade. They were looking for a blocking tight end. They had interest in Cincinnati Bengals tight end Cam Grandy. Nothing materialized, but sources tell me that they were interested in Grandy from the Bengals. Very interesting. And so that means they're probably not done at tight end. And as far as Robinson, since I'm talking trades, what if they revisit Robinson at the trade deadline? What if somebody else goes down? What if they need to trade Cam Robinson? We'll see. 7, count them, 7 wide receivers. Not surprising. Similar to what they did with Steven Sims Jr. when he was here as a return man. So Braxton Berrios makes it. Justin Watson makes it for special teams, speed, 2-year contract, all that stuff. And then, of course, it's Pro Bowl wide receiver Nico Collins, veteran slot Christian Kirk, rookies Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, and improved Xavier Hutchinson. They just have one pure nickel in Jalen Petrie. But Kamari Lassiter's cross-trained at some nickel. Jalen Smith played nickel at USC. And, of course, Petrie could play safety in the pinch. And then they were able to cut long snapper Blake Ferguson. That's because Austin Brinkman is expected back for the Rams game. He had an oblique injury per sources. So then Elijah Huzzie, as you guys know, is out for the year. Let's say NFI, but he's out for the year with a torn ACL from last year, the East-West Shrine game. Dinoco Archer was not activated, told he's healthy enough, but they didn't think he could help them at this time. Kurt Hinish is on the PUP list as well with a knee injury. Irv Smith is out for the year. Ankle injury is bad enough he's out for the season. Same thing for Juwan Winfrey, broke his hand. And you guys know the deal with Jimmy Ward, commissioner's exempt. He wouldn't be able to play even if he was not facing this very serious legal accusation in Montgomery County. and the grand jury is on August 31st. So, even though Steven Jackson's lawyer said he expects him to be vindicated in the case to be no bill, being thrown out, that is not it as far as the NFL is concerned. I think they will continue to pursue discipline. He also faces a $20 million civil lawsuit, and it was refiled in Harris County by Tony Busby. Was originally thrown out of Montgomery County. And this is all in regards to the domestic violence case and the ongoing dispute between Jimmy Ward and his baby's mother. Okay. Damon Arnett Jr., back for the practice squad. Damon is a former Raiders first-round draft pick. As we know, he had some personal issues and legal issues in the past. But he has been doing a good job for the Texans, and so he gets back on the practice squad. Haggai Nnabusi is back for the practice squad as an international player. Interesting developmental, sorry I'm itching so much, international defensive tackle. 2 sacks in the preseason, leading the team. Rush Yeast talked to the Texans about coming back and ultimately decided to go to the Cincinnati Bengals. So they had discussions, and he decided to go in a different direction. Junior Tafuna, former Senior Bowl standout, Utah football, defensive tackle. He is back for the practice squad, as is Casey Osai, the younger brother of Bengals linebacker Joseph Osai. And so lots of moves. They have been super busy, but just looking back at the rest of the defense. So we talked about linebacker. At safety, it's just C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Kalen Bullock, and M.J. Stewart. So they only really have 2 safeties that are ready to play, and Kalen Bullock and M.J. Stewart. So it was good that they have Miles Bryant for the practice squad. I was surprised if Miles is not up for the game and if he doesn't play some on defense. Corners, Derek Stingley Jr., the All-Pro. Kamari Lassiter, standout second-year corner. Jalen Smith, who has some flexibility in terms of play. Tremont Smith is special teams ace. And so that is the 53-man roster. And I'll go over a little bit more with the practice squad, just kind of recapping some of the signings for them. And as I said, Harrison Bryant's a big one. And that, I think, bolsters the position some. Trent Brown, Jakob Johnson, 2 of the bigger names that are back, along with Damon Arnett. But they also brought back Jared Wayne. Jared Wayne, who was having a good offseason, former Pitt football standout from Canada, big vertical leap, large receiver, had a hamstring injury, has healed up from that, and now he is back. Eli Cox, good developmental rookie center from Kentucky. He is back for the practice squad. And we mentioned Solomon Byrd many times. I told you guys he's a good player, but they didn't sit down a spot for him. So Solomon Byrd is back for the practice squad. Jalen Thomas, reserve offensive lineman, back for practice squad. They didn't want Ladarius Henderson for practice squad. A little surprising. They didn't have interest in him. They have another tight end, Luke Lachey from Iowa. He joins the practice squad. Mentioned Casey Osai. Jackson Woodard, former Mountain West Conference Defensive Player of the Year in UNLV, also there for the practice squad. So lots of activity there with the practice squad and interesting developments there all around with practice squad, with the, they're not really done yet with the 53. I think there's going to be more moves. Nick had said something about more moves on Thursday, meaning tomorrow. So we'll see how he goes forward with that. And, is he trading for a tight end? What's he going to do? He says after Thursday, they'll kind of be set. So, yeah, just kind of looking through the roster, some of the injury situations that might affect next week. Pretty healthy at running back. I think that, Cam Robinson is still not 100%. Blake Fisher is still not 100%. I'm like a broken record. I get it. Just being very forthcoming here about some of the injury situations that impact this team. And then with, the defense, C.J. Gardner-Johnson is the biggest injury to watch. Obviously, Christian Harris is back, and they feel good about having him back for, everything that he brings to the table in terms of speed, reactions, playmaking ability, hitting. Just a good football player. So, yeah, that is your initial Texans 53-man roster, which includes kicker Kaimi Fairburn, punter Tommy Townsend, long snapper, big shoes to fill, the replacement for John Weeks, the former Pro Bowl long snapper now with the San Francisco 49ers. Austin Brinkman fills in for that role, former standout at West Virginia. And then, of course, the punt returner Braxton Berrios. One of the kickoff returners is Damian Pierce. So that is the team. They have a couple more spots left. I think they could use a wide receiver to go with Jared Wayne. Maybe it'll be Daniel Jackson. We'll see. I think they could also use possibly an additional safety. And they could definitely use a blocking tight end, like I'd said. So the Texans are in a good situation health-wise, with the exception of Joe Mixon. But the Texans, I think, are ready for this Rams game, and we'll see how they do. It'll be a great test for the overall quality of the roster. Of course, it's Nick Scaley's play calling debut, and we'll get into that in the week as we talk to Nick about, coaching on the opposite sideline from Sean McVay, one of his mentors. It'll be very interesting to see. But I know that a lot of good things are happening with the offense, and Nick Caley, Cole Popovich, Ben McDaniels, all those guys have a lot to do with Danny Barrett. Yeah, can't forget Danny. Assistant head coach, really good leader. And he's got a lot on his plate with not having Joe Mixon. So yeah, no Joe Mixon, guys, but it looks like almost everybody else will play. I kind of am iffy on C.J. Gardner-Johnson. We'll see. It doesn't seem like it, but stranger things have happened. Guys, thanks for tuning in and watching the channel. Please watch, like, subscribe here at Aaron Wilson Sport, and we'll have more and more Texans content. I'm going to bring it all week, all season long. Thanks for the faith and trust, your respect. I like the comments, and I appreciate some of the things you guys are saying this evening. Read all the comments, enjoy them, and yeah, thanks very much for all of your support. Of course, I'm on Twitter/X at Aaron Wilson_NFL, Instagram Aaron Wilson 7128. I'm even on some other channels, but that's pretty much it. And I would say, guys, continue to like and watch and comment, and let me know anything you're interested in. Do the best I can to try to provide it within the time frame I have with everything I'm doing with KPRC2 and www.click2houston.com. Guys, until next time, I look forward to our next conversation.